Hey everyone, welcome. Welcome today to Sean Thomas's live. No, it's Jeff Bruno. What am I talking about? Sorry, Sean. Hey guys. So, if you haven't noticed, I am at the beach. Actually, been here all summer. Not too bad. I think I did a live or two down here, a couple lives. So this will be my last live down here, and then it's back to Philadelphia. Hope everybody's doing well out in your areas, wherever you are. And let's get cranking, man. Let's cranking. Financial updates, financial operations process, how it all comes together in a framework to help your business grow. And if I can answer questions along the way, that's the idea of what I do here for you guys. So, general updates. August 17th. This Delta variant, of course, everybody's dealing with this. And all it does is just reiterate the uncertainty and that you need to quantify your strategies and make sure that you are staying ahead of the what ifs, scenario planning, and getting as much cash up front as you can to ride out any potential disruptions. Just a reminder to everybody on that. Always, always, always stay ahead and planned. So let's start. We'll start with some of the questions. So I have one here from Yolinda de Gouvier. The question is, I feel like I need to stop, go back, and restart with the basics. I had already started my business when I joined AO, and I don't have the basic foundation and processes down. Where do you recommend I start? I need a clear vision and a roadmap and projections on where I'm going and how to get there. We manufacture decorative throw pillows and pillow inserts. The potential for growth is huge. We currently do around $15K a month, but I need to at least double and triple that. I can't scale haphazardly. This needs to be very calculated and planned. We are a mother and daughter team that designs and creates custom decorative throw pillows for home and business branding. Awesome. So, love it. We worked with the client in that space. They did custom high-end pillow throws, comforters, duvets, few other things. Still doing it, but very custom, very premier pricing. So not in branding stuff for business, but mostly for home decor, and they have a strong business model, and they go to a lot of trade shows. They go to one in New York, big trade show in New York, where they get a lot of business from that. They sell wholesale and retail components, but they're larger than what you're talking about there, $15K a month. I mean, they're doing about I want to say $2.5 million, and they have their ups and downs, but I want to ask you a question back to you. Yolindi. You say the potential is huge, but why do you say that? For growth is huge. So what are the metrics that you're looking at to determine whether you can be successful? Meaning, what is your strategy? And have you quantified that strategy? I just said at the beginning of this live. So the market you're in is humongous, okay? It's extremely large. And on top of that, it is extremely competitive. There are huge brands out there doing this, humongous brands. They have major operations with low cost in China and other areas that they're bringing in these stuff, which some of the quality is not there. I'm sure your quality exceeds them. But you have a lot of lower end creators, lower volume creators, like the client we worked with, like you, across the country in those various areas. So the market is huge. What is your idea on how you want to further penetrate the market, and how far do you want to go? If you want to just double or triple your business, you want to get to, let's say, $50,000 a month, $600,000 business, that is, I'm sure, doable in your space. I'm sure that's probably doable almost just locally if you have a good enough product. And, I don't see any potential there. If you get the right branding going and the right marketing going, you could probably do that. The question is then, where do you want to go after that? Once you tip into $1 million, $2 million marks, you have a lot more hassle to continue to grow and scale. So I'd want to know what your objectives are there. That's first. Second, as I mentioned, what is your differentiator? Yes, you make custom things. Yes, you brand them. That's great. But what differentiates you? Mother-daughter, there's a story there, but that's a local story. That's not a scalable story. So what is the differentiator? And if you're thinking of scale past 600,000, this becomes very complicated. I'm not trying to dissuade you, but I'm just saying you've got to make a decision here in your growth process if you want to stop at 500, 600, maybe $1 million business, or if you want to go to 5 million. Because those are huge differences in your space. Because you're going to need to have a major process for inventory management and sales pipeline management. And all I mean is it might be raw materials, inserts, covers, whatever it is, but you're going to need to have a very process-oriented system that manages that inventory. You don't overbuy inventory. You don't sit with inventory too long, meaning you overbought it and you're sitting with it too long. You don't have phantom income at the end of the year because you bought inventory, but you don't sell it till second quarter of the next year, and you have to pay taxes on it because it's in your inventory. A lot of people forget about that concept when you're an inventory business. So many questions as you start to grow. And then where do you get your sales from? Is it all retail? Is there a wholesale component? Are you going to be going direct to consumers? Are you going to use certain outlets in the wholesale fashion to get to those consumers? So you really have to ask yourself all of those questions and then decide. So I do agree with you. You should go back to the basics. You should go, what is my strategy? How do I quantify it? What kind of money and inventory do I need to get there? And then how do I attack the market? What's that quantified aspect looks? What's my cost to acquire clients? And how much capital do I need if I really want to get to that $1 million mark? In theory, if I have to build inventory ahead of recognizing some of those profits. So I threw a lot at you, but I would definitely go back to that and think heavily on the planning side. Congratulations on your success so far, and I'm sure you can build from here, but that's the way I would look at it. Next question. This is submitted by Dan Rozumsky. Dan says, how much should I sell 20% of my business for? What are the questions I should review from this new partnership? Business background. I have a person I've worked with, and he wants to buy 20% of the company. He will be a managing partner. He will take over all logistics and the operations of the business. I will focus on the sales and the growth. And this will explode my business. And this will also save me lots of headaches on getting the projects done. I'm looking to grow my exterior contracting company to $1 million in profitable sales. I'm looking to open more locations once all implemented systems are working. Looking to extend to a large insurance claims, 100K plus, and government contracts. Right now, a veteran-owned business. Dan, awesome. So you definitely have an avenue with the veteran-owned for the government contracts. You'll get some priority scenarios there, which is great. You might want to consider even hiring veterans as you start to grow here. That might help you too. You can get some WOTC credits, or WOTC credits. Look those up. Those are credits for veteran-owned employees, up to $8,000 a year, straight tax credit. I think $8,000 or $9,000 a year. Not my specialty, but definitely know about them. WOTC credits could help you as you bring on people, and they are. That's just one side note. So, partnership is your real question. So, first of all, I'd ask you: are you an LLC? Are you sub S? Are you what's your construct? Are you a corporation? How are you structured? So you could determine what it is that you're trying to do with your interests. Meaning, is he buying into the equity? are you giving him any of this as sweat equity? If he's buying in, then he sets his cost basis for that equity, so he will then have no tax. He'll have no tax consequence because he's giving you money to buy in. If he's not giving you money for a portion of that, don't forget about the tax consequences with that. If he's actually buying into the membership interests or the equity is what I'm getting at. So the idea of doing that with a partner is an absolute no-brainer, in my opinion. No-brainer. If that person is going to handle the logistics and you're not good at that, or you just prefer not to do it, I love it. All day, do it, because you will never be able to scale unless you have somebody who can do that. So I'm a big, big proponent of that. Now, in the beginning, since you are the majority owner and he is a minority, I would lay out an expectation chart, okay? Over the next 2 to 3 years, something like that. Here's what I expect you to do at 20% of the company. Here's what I will handle. Boom. Dan, whoever your partner is to be. Do you agree with this? Yes, I agree. These are the expectations we should lay out, so on and so forth. And you ink it. I mean, it can even just be a freaking checklist with some subset things. I will handle this, 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 and this, and sort of all the logistics around this. I will do this, this, and this, and handle this. Do we agree we're each going to do this? We agree. Okay, sign off on it. Doesn't have to be formal. It can be just a checklist of things, generally scoping out responsibility. Then, since he is buying in, you might want to do a buy-sell agreement. Talk to an attorney, but let's say, he gets hit by a bus or you get hit by a bus and you guys have families, there might be consideration on that equity percentage being paid out to the families. Or you might need a little bit of life insurance on him to cover that person, to cover that role in your organization for 6 months or a year. Sort of that capital to rehire that person and absorb that hit. So you want to think about that in that scenario. Lawyers can draft pretty simple ones, as long as you guys agree to the terms for, $2,000, maybe a couple, $3,000, if it's relatively simple. So I would think about that. Now, the other thing to consider when you're looking at a 20% ownership is most banks these days, including the SBA, for any funding situations, ask for a guarantor signature on any owner that is 20% or more of a business. Used to be 33 for banks. Now they're even pulling it down to 20. SBA has always been 20. So if you have debt now, or if you have debt into the future, you will need to consider that, because that new person will be a signer. If they have a problem with that, then you might want to make them 19.9%. Keep them just under that level. So something to consider there. And so those are a few things to think through. A good way to structure it. Make sure you get to agreement on responsibilities. And go for it. I love it. It's the only way to scale. Next question is from Matthew Phipps. His question: how do you approach a business partner when your responsibilities have become more than the original agreement for a percentage in the company? Oh, here you go, Matthew. Our company sells a bike product that creates sparks as you wheelie. I was invited to start this business and lead the product development for a 12% stake in the company. Now my business partner has me doing website design, graphic design, sales portals, customer support, and shipping, along with designing our next round of products. How do I approach the conversation that this was not in the original agreement on our responsibilities for 12% of the business? And what is an appropriate compensation to ask for? Or is it best to be happy with my percentage and do everything I can to make this business a success? Well, Matt, that couldn't have been more aligned with the last question in concert with this. So that is why you lay out expectations and you agree to them in the beginning of what your role is for 12% of the business when you took that on with the company. So clearly that did not happen. I'm not saying that's your fault. I'm saying that didn't happen. So it's simple. If you are not the majority holder, which I assume you're not, unless there are a lot of other partners in this scenario, you will need to see if there's a way that you can get an employee agreement with them. If you can get an employee agreement that spells out some of the scenarios for you. And in that employment agreement, maybe you want to get a bump in salary. Maybe you come to the table and say, guys, look, I don't need additional equity. I know we've grown in value. We've all helped get there, so I don't want a tax scenario. The company doesn't want to divest some more shares. We're growing. Fine. But here's the deal. I'm doing 40% more than you guys asked me. Here's the list of things I'm doing. Here's what we talked about. So you guys are paying me, and I have no idea what it is, but let's say they're paying you $75,000 a year. I need 110, and I need it guaranteed for the next 3 years for what I'm doing. And I can tackle this stuff, and I can do it, but I need that on top of my 12% equity. And I want that in an employee agreement. And, in theory, if you're really doing good work and they really need you, they're going to do it. And you set up an agreement structure for that. And you draft an employee agreement, or they draft it, and you have an attorney quickly look at it and sign off on it. Because that way, your value is substantiated through salary. Because when a business is growing, to ask for more equity is a very tricky situation. It's doable, for sure, but it's tricky with tax considerations and so on. So that's one way to do it. Or you can ask for maybe a bonus scenario, or something to that extent if it's not a salary uptick, a sort of a guaranteed bonus. But I mean, whatever it is, try to work around that scenario. And also, what I would bring to them, Matthew, if you're really involved in the product development, make sure that if that's your main skill set, that they are not wasting your skill and could have another firm or another group do the other things that you're doing, so that you could focus on what your primary skill is to help them continue to grow the business at the rate they want to grow it, so your 12% actually grows substantially. Because that's long-term much more value for you than an extra $30K a year. I mean, that could be an extra $500K at the end. So that's the kind of construct you want to think about. So have that all in your head when you go negotiate with them. Good luck. Next question is from Ricardo Delgado. Should my business have an employee handbook or operations manual? I have a barbershop and I'm looking to build a brand behind it. I want my business to be able to scale in the most smooth way possible. That way I can get investors interested. Okay, Ricardo. So I'm not sure on the employee manual. So Marsha O'Connor, who's also an AO mentor, really is the one to ask you about this. She brings the clarity around this, but I mean, just off the top of my head, I would say that the businesses we work with, and they are all in the range of about $2 million to $30 million in revenue, I would say 60% of them don't have an employee manual. I'm not saying that's right. It's probably not right. Probably many more of them need that. But they have other rules and regs that they pull together, and they have, ADP or other systems that will pull together sort of some general regs that they at least cover. So I don't know. It depends on what type of industry you're in, how relevant it is, what your liability risk is there, things like that. If you're in a high liability construct, like you have a workers' comp scenario, or you have some insurance that's costly, I would then probably lean heavily towards an employee manual early on in your business. But I mean, barbershop doesn't sound too heavy on the liability end. But again, this is not my area. This is more Marsha O'Connor. Marsha would probably say everybody should have an employee handbook, and I don't disagree with that. But sometimes priorities shift a little as you start to grow your business. So I just don't have that answer. I have an employee manual. It's small. It's a few pages, but I do. So that's where I stand. Thanks, Ricardo. So next submitter, Bob Guerre. Bob says, how should I approach price point testing when my primary pricing consideration, customer acquisition cost, is unknown? In the spring, I tested my SAT prep software at a $249 price point and did not generate any sales. During testing, I uncovered a similar product that is free. I do believe I have valuable differentiators for this product, and I want to test the market at a lower price point, around 30 to 50. We are an expert SAT Math is a membership-based website which helps high school students realize their goals and dreams through mindset and incentive-based SAT Math prep. Very cool, Bob. Love the concept. So, not knowing your CAC, your cost to acquire the client, does make this difficult. You're right. So I would put forth what I've kind of said earlier in this live is, what is your whole strategy? So what is your end game in mind? Is this your only product, or is this a feeder for other things in your business? If this is your only product that you want to try to stand up at $30 to $50, I would say you have a little bit of a road ahead of you here, because that's a low price point. But hold on one second. Let me pause for a second. Pause for a second, everybody. Okay, sorry. The video looked like it paused for a minute, so I wanted to make sure everything was okay. I think it's still working. So don't know what that's about. But anyway, Bob, so the price point issue can be a problem at that lower price point to get traction. But yeah, I would test it. I mean, if you don't know and you don't have any visibility, then you just have to test so that you can then implement and optimize. So absolutely test it, see what you get. Look, you're starting out in a sense, or you're trying to position yourself, so I don't think it matters where you test, as long as you get some strong feedback and track to see what's effective there. And then think of it in the mindset of where you want to be, like how much money you can do, or you need to do to add more services or get to the next level of growth, or what does that look like, so that, $30 to $50, see if that makes any sense for that, because that's a big price differential from $249. So that's what I would say. Hope that was helpful. All right, we're still on blackout here, but I think we're still working. So next question. Is this our last question? Oh, well, this is our last question. So let's dive into this one here. So Marielle Goodrich, owner of IsleBartend.com. Hey, Marielle, good to hear from you again. So Marielle asks, should I set different pay rates for private versus public events for my team? Business description. When we do private events, my team members are fully paid for by our clients. I started with only private events and charge $50 per hour per support staff. Isle Bartend keeps $25 per hour, and my team makes $25 per hour. Now that we have started doing public events, it is a huge risk to guarantee $25 per hour plus tips. If we do not get any business, I get crushed by payroll. However, the outdoor events are exhausting, hot, and require an incredible amount of physical labor, so it seems wrong to pay less for these. Not sure what to do. My team is already becoming spoiled, and I need to rethink how we pay and what my expectations are from them. I realize that this will be addressed when I create an employee handbook. So, Marielle, this seems tricky. So I need to understand your business a little more here, but let me make some guesses. So I'm going to guess that with the private events, you have more, how do I phrase this? A more premium kind of product. Like, it's a high touch, more, the crowd's expecting more. You're kind of, you need to, your people need to be their best, on their best behavior, so on and so forth, well dressed, appearance wise, and all that. And your products need to be, well prepared. Whereas on a public event, you have a little more flexibility with that, I'm sure. So I would want to understand that, because maybe there are two pricing structures you can do there. So like, I think if I'm understanding you, you say that for private events, you're paying people, their clients are paying you $50 an hour for the staff. My question is, are you getting that $50 an hour for the people on the public events? You didn't make that clear. Or are you just depending on the volume, because it's bigger volume at the public events, to make up for the fact that you're not getting an hourly? I think that's what you're saying in this comment. So if that's the case, you probably need to decrease your hourly payroll cost for the live events, with the understanding that they would probably get the majority of the tips, if not all of the tips, if that's the case, and hope that the tips are larger in the outdoor events than the private events, because the private events are almost kind of assumed that those people are getting paid by you more, and there's usually less tips at a private event. It's not really as much the atmosphere for it, I would think. So I think you do have to adjust price point down, but if you did some analysis and looked at the average event that was decently attended and looked at the tips and said, well, you're going to go down to 15 an hour, but you're going to make 27 an hour on average outside, maybe then the people would be excited about that, or 30 an hour on the decent events. And then you say, look, there'll be some events you're only going to make 18 an hour, but others you're going to make 30. It's a little bit of a crapshoot. But if you're willing to work with me here, I'll also, guarantee a certain amount of work for you over this period. I'll make sure it doesn't go below $18 an hour. Maybe you put a cap on a floor on the level, so you know what you're definitely going to put out during the event, and that way everybody's sort of understanding of that, and you're very transparent about what the business is making versus what they're making. Almost like, guys, I can't run a business, I can't pay for product if I don't make this, so there's no reason for me to be doing it. So I think that's your best way, and I just don't understand enough about the nuances of the differences of those two. But love it. I really love the concept, and I think there's some room there to grow. And if you're paying people $25 an hour, that's a real high, good starting level, and you should have some motivated employees, because you're not trying to skimp around and pay people $5, $10 an hour, and then plus tips, things like that. So love it. Love to chat with you, Marielle. I don't believe I have a live town hall this week or this month, but I'll probably be starting one next month again, I'm sure. Jump on that. We can talk a little more about your business. I'd love to understand where you're at with that. So that's it, everybody. I'm sure a lot of people are out today. Hopefully some people are taking a little bit of break, on vacation, recharging, getting ready for the fall. It's going to be filled with uncertainty and pitfalls and growth opportunities and business nowadays. Stay off the news, take a break, get ready for the fall. It's going to be a ride. Good to see everyone, whoever's listening, and have a good rest of your summer. See ya.